A car is stopped sideways on a dark New Hampshire road. The engine is cold. The driver's door is locked. Red wine stains the snow. When police arrive minutes later, the driver is gone. No footprints lead away. No phone calls are made. And Maura Murray is never seen again. On the evening of February 9th, 2004, Maura Murray vanished after a single car crash along Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire. She was 21 years old. In the hours before her disappearance, Maura had emailed professors, withdrawn nearly all the cash from her bank account, and packed her dorm room belongings into boxes. Then she drove north, alone, into one of the most heavily wooded regions of New England. What happened next has been debated for more than 2 decades. Maura was a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She was known as disciplined, athletic, and deeply driven, traits shaped by a strict upbringing and years of competitive sports. Friends described her as private under stress, someone who internalized pressure rather than sharing it. And in the days leading up to February 9th, that pressure was mounting. Two days before she vanished, Maura was involved in a minor car accident near her father's motel. The damage was cosmetic. No injuries were reported. But for Maura, it was another fracture in an already unstable moment. Soon after, she searched online for directions, accommodations, and scenic areas in New Hampshire and Vermont. Then came the emails, to professors, to supervisors. She wrote that there had been a death in the family. There hadn't. On February 9th, Maura withdrew $280 in cash, nearly all the money in her account. She stopped at a liquor store. She filled her car with gas. Then she headed north. Where she planned to go and why remains unclear. At approximately 7:27 p.m., Maura's Saturn sedan was reported crashed into a snowbank along Route 112. A local resident saw the car. Maura was standing outside. She appeared shaken, but uninjured. She declined help. She asked the witness not to call the police. Minutes later, police arrived. The car was empty, locked. Maura Murray was gone. The distance between Maura Murray's crashed car and the arrival of police was short, roughly 9 minutes. That window, brief, silent, and undocumented, has become the most scrutinized span of time in the case. A local bus driver was one of the last people to see Maura. He stopped to offer help. Maura declined. She did not appear seriously injured. She did not appear panicked. But she was insistent. She asked him not to call the police. When he drove away, Maura was still at the car. At approximately 7:46 p.m., a Haverhill police officer arrived on scene. The Saturn was locked. The airbags had deployed. Inside the car, officers found Maura's license, her credit cards, a box of wine. There were no footprints leading away from the vehicle, no signs of blood, no indication of a second vehicle. Maura Murray had vanished into the cold. Search efforts began almost immediately. Police, volunteers, and family members combed the area. Canine units were brought in. The dogs tracked Maura's scent briefly, down the road, then lost it near an intersection. Some interpret this as evidence she entered a vehicle. Others argue scent tracking in winter conditions is unreliable. Critics of the investigation point to one issue repeatedly: time. If Maura had been injured, exposure could have been fatal. If she accepted a ride, those early minutes were the only chance to identify a second driver. Every unanswered question compounds with each passing hour. Maura's family arrived quickly. Her father, Fred Murray, became the most vocal advocate for continued investigation. He challenged early assumptions, he pushed back against suggestions of simple misadventure, and he refused to accept silence as an answer. Almost immediately, two competing narratives formed. One suggested Maura ran from the scene, panicked, intoxicated, afraid of consequences. The other suggested something intervened, something unseen. Between them lies a truth that has never surfaced. In the years since Maura Murray vanished, her case has been analyzed, debated, and dissected more than almost any other missing person case of its era. Each theory offers a possible answer. None offer certainty. One of the earliest explanations suggests Maura ran from the crash. She may have been drinking. She may have feared legal trouble. She may have panicked. Supporters of this theory believe Maura fled into the woods. But winter temperatures that night were brutal. Search teams found no clear trail, no clothing, no remains. In terrain this unforgiving survival, or disappearance without trace, raises serious doubts. Closely tied to the runaway idea is the theory of death by exposure. That Maura succumbed to the cold somewhere beyond the initial search area. But decades of additional searches have produced nothing. No evidence. No recovery. The land has kept its silence. Another possibility is that Maura encountered someone else, that she accepted a ride, or that she was taken. Scent dogs losing her trail near the road lends some support to this idea. But there were no confirmed reports of suspicious vehicles. No witnesses, no physical evidence tying another person to her disappearance. Some believe Maura intended to disappear, that the emails, cash withdrawal, and packed belongings point to planning. But Maura left behind her phone activity, bank access, and personal connections. There is no evidence she ever resurfaced. A clean disappearance at 21, with no trace for decades, requires resources Maura did not have. Over time, the case fractured public opinion. Online forums, independent investigators, conflicting narratives. Some argue the initial investigation missed critical details. Others believe the truth lies beyond evidence currently available. What remains undisputed is this: no theory fully explains every known fact. Maura Murray's disappearance endures because it sits at the intersection of choice and chance. A single decision, a wrong road, a few silent minutes, and a young woman vanished from a place where she should have been found. On February 9, 2004, Maura Murray disappeared into the New Hampshire night. No confirmed sightings, no remains, only questions, somewhere between the crash site and the surrounding wilderness, her story stopped being written. And the silence that followed has never been broken. If you have any information about the disappearance of Maura Murray, contact the New York State Police. Until there are answers, her story remains one of too many in the chronicles of the unsolved.